My name is Daniel Katzenstein. I made Aliyah to Israel from Dallas, Texas. I left in 1998, moved here, and it's been my dream to live in Eretz Yisrael, to raise a family, and very shortly after I arrived in Israel, a neighbor of mine had an ambulance service. And I said, I want to be a part of that. And I haven't looked back since, and that's since 1998. When United Hatzalah united all the disparate parts of the Hatzalah organizations in Israel under United Hatzalah, I was like, that's a great idea. And I joined United Hatzalah under Gitty Beer, who also was from Neve Yaakov, where I live. So I know Eli for many years. And it's been a wonderful experience being part of United Hatzalah. So I was actually CEO of a small Haredi ad agency. My degree is in business administration and advertising. And I'd been running this ad agency, and one day I was sitting in the office saying to myself, I'm convincing people to spend money they don't have to buy things they don't need. That left me very unfulfilled. When I went on a call with Gitty Beer, and he said, well, and I looked at the marketing material for United Hatzalah, I was like, this is horrible. I was like, this is really bad stuff. I mean, the English was, you know, as they say in Hebrew, tat ramah. It was just, the graphics was really not so yummy. And he asked me, he said, do you know anyone who can do a better job? And I'm like, I didn't think about it then, but I was like, let's see, I had actually, before I was in the ad agency, I'd actually started my own translation company. So I had the Hebrew English, I had the business background, I had already become an EMT with United Hatzalah. And he says, do you know anyone who can do a better job? And I was like, nope. And I imagined, when I got home that night, I was like, I imagined the angels on heaven saying, we set that up for you. Like, how did you drop that, you know? And I was like, the next day I called Eli and said, I think I might know someone. I was like, the penny dropped a day late, but a penny dropped. And I said, I think I might be able to help out. And ever since then, it's been, you know, I'm not working anymore. You know, I come to work here every day, but this is literally a labor of love. This is getting the United Hatzalah story out to the world, to the people that support United Hatzalah, knowing that when I get a story that is heartfelt, that is articulate, that is accurate, because that's also very important for me. We have to have transparency, we have to have accuracy. These are things that drive me. And when I know that that information will help bring more resources to the organization, I know that that's going to help save a life. I tell people, if I put an oxygen mask on someone who's having difficulty breathing, but that oxygen mask is not attached to an oxygen tank with a flow of oxygen, I'm not helping him. As a matter of fact, I'm actually hurting him. But if that oxygen tank is not attached to someone who provides us with the flow of resources to fund that, I'm also helpless. So there needs to be that flow of what I do in the field, what people do in the marketing side of things, and what people do in the fundraising side. We're all saving lives. So October of 2023 was really like any other Sukkot in our family. It was lots of family time, lots of time with the grandkids. I don't remember how many grandkids I had then, but Baruch Hashem, it's quite the tribe at the moment, and so we try to like space them so each group gets a different amount of time with Opa. I'm Opa, and so my daughter from Ofakim came with, I think at the time she had 6 kids. And we were just getting ready for a regular Simchat Torah, which is It was like the best time to be a kid. I mean, it's lots of candy, lots of noise and dancing and going wild. And, you know, everyone was anticipating just a regular Simchat Torah. And that's what it was like until.
And October 7th?
So on October 7th, I went to shul. I'm a gabbai in the shul. I'm very involved in the shul. I also always had my Hatzalah walkie-talkie with me. I have my car parked outside. It's an electric car because I want an electric car because it's easier on Shabbat for many of the halachic considerations. And I've got bulletproof vest and helmet there. I'm basically ready for anything, but being a dad and a grandfather at the same time as being a gabbai and a very passionate Jew, you know, and Simchas Torah, the whole month of Tishrei is just such a time for passion and service of Hashem, and it was, you know, it was just regular. It was just totally regular. Obviously, I'm disattached from all the other media connections that exist. And then davening began, and you know, I went over to, at one point in the davening, I went over to the head gabbai and I said, I got a warning that there are, you know, missiles coming our way. And he's like, all right, when we hear the siren, we'll go downstairs or whatever. And the siren was very low in our area. Some people went downstairs. Most people couldn't hear it over the noise and everything else. And frankly, I didn't know anything until Simchat Torah was over. The entire day of Simchat Torah, of the Chag of Simchat Torah, I didn't know anything. My son, as soon as Simchat Torah was over, he said, Dad, do not open your phone. Because he knew that I would be getting all the information and all of the videos that were already flooding the system. Now he knows that I have another abbreviation for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So I have another abbreviation for PTSD. The other abbreviation is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now you might say, you just said the same thing twice, but I didn't. I emphasized the word post. I've treated people after Meron, the Meron tragedy, and after October 7th, I treated people for exposure to posts, media posts, people seeing too much toxic media. I had to treat people as much as if they were directly exposed. And that's where I call it post-traumatic stress disorder. And every day I thank my son for sparing me that exposure. To this day, people said, oh, you remember that video? No. It doesn't do me, it doesn't do my memory, it doesn't do my soul any good to see that level of brutality. It's just not good. That's how October 7th came to me. Obviously, Motzei Chag, we started, prepping, everything, supporting all the volunteers that had already done 12 hours of hell. We started the psychotrauma crisis response unit, Ihud Hatzalah, that I'm a part of and one of the founding members, was like full gear. This is something we've never seen. This is something, the amount of psychotrauma and crisis response that we needed was just a tidal wave. And you're talking about civilians in the area, obviously. You're talking about soldiers and security personnel thrown into the thick of things. We didn't even know at this point how many of our volunteers had been killed or are missing, captured. this information was just beginning to creep up into the consciousness of everyone, but even someone so connected and part of an organization that was so connected, sifting through the facts, which were just absolutely unbelievable, that our normal filters of okay, let's just wait until the facts clarify themselves, because there's no way that there are 500 people injured. That doesn't make sense. And I was like, oh no. And it's only getting worse. And it took days until we got even something of a clearer picture. So on October 8th, I came to work. Again, like I said, my job at United Hatzalah is to tell the United Hatzalah story to the donors who provide us with the resources to help save lives. So I said, I gotta go down to Tzomet Heletz. We had, I don't know, dozens of vehicles, ambulances, vehicles of all types. Special kudos to the logistics team. I mean, really, if anything really saved the day, it was the logistics team. Because these guys who work in the warehouse and outside of Beit Shemesh and Har Tuv, they stopped their Shabbat Chag like all the other volunteers who rushed to help, and they didn't go into battle. They took the forklifts, they went into the warehouse, and they just shoved everything they could into the vehicles and drove them into the same battlefield that everyone else was treating. They were bringing the supplies, they were bringing the oxygen, they were bringing the tourniquets. I mean, I've maybe affixed 1 or 2 tourniquets in my life over 20 years and as an EMT. We had newbies who were going 20, 30, 40 tourniquets. That's not a number that's easily understood. A tourniquet means that without that activity, that person's going to bleed out and die. That's what a tourniquet is. And we were going through them like candy. That was just something that was just, off the charts. And I'm getting, so I go down to Tzomet Heletz to get the story, to see what's happening. We have to stop at some point. There's a body at one of the bus stops. I'm like, all right, just someone waiting for a bus. It was a terrorist who had been killed, and I was like, okay, nothing for us to do here. One of the guys who came down with us went on another ambulance group. He found another body of a civilian who had been killed in the field, and missiles are still flying overhead, helicopters are still running. It's still active. I'm wearing my bulletproof vest and helmet as well because, frankly, I didn't even know how dangerous it was where I was. I don't know if it would have made much of a difference. I've done things in my 20 some odd years that put me in a certain degree of danger. I don't know how many terrorist attacks I've been in, but I do it again. So, but I didn't know at the time. There's no heroics because, I didn't know what I was getting into. As we pull into Tzomet Heletz where we had all the ambulances, and I thought I'm going to take pictures of the ambulances and get stories from the volunteers on the scene. And I walk in, and Eli Beer's son-in-law, Aaron Ben Arush, says, "Katzenstein, wow, you came just in time." And I'm like, what for? He's like, ambulance, I think 66, psychotrauma crisis response. I'm like, whoa, changing gears. So I go to the ambulance, and I open the door, and there's a chayal, a soldier, screaming. I've been hit in the face, in the arm, don't touch. And I'm like, whoa, because he's already been what we call trauma stripped. He's wearing just his underwear and whatever. He's not physically injured. There's no blood. And I'm like, someone tell me what's happening here because I'm not processing this right yet. he's like, he was next to a friend of his who got a bullet in the face and was killed. And he was sure, it's combat stress. This is acute stress reaction to the highest level. This is what we trained for. I mean, I've never seen it at this level. I've seen 8s and 9s. This is a 10 plus. This is the off the charts reaction. And once I knew that he had seen something, he had been traumatized, he's having an acute stress reaction. I'm like, okay, I can deal with this. I said, I'm the commander here. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you're the commander of what? You know? And but that got his attention because he was out. He was out to lunch. He was somewhere else. And he looks at me and our eyes lock, which is one of the first things you look for. Is, can the person focus on you? And I said, Ani mefaked bo. I'm the commander. And he's like, commander of what? I'm like, I'm commander of Ihud Hatzalah. I'm the commander of the psychotrauma crisis response team because I am the senior psychotrauma responder here. I need you to listen to me. Okay, the next two things were, seeing it was like a miracle. Two key things that we do in every trauma situation. You are safe now. You are safe now. That incident is over. Now, there are still missiles falling. There's still plenty of things that are risky that could happen. But the incident that you were involved in is over. You are safe now. Those two truisms are vital to interdict and prevent the acute stress reaction for developing into an acute stress disorder, which, of course, meets its big bad brother of post-traumatic stress disorder. And that interdiction was so vital. And to see him go, I can't, I'm like, the incident is over. You are safe now. It's like, whoa. And like, it took quite a bit of time. We had to move on to we have Dr. Farhi from Tel Chai. He does the model maaseh. This is the psychological psychotrauma crisis response model that we use. And I was like, I just went right into it. Ani po bishvilcha. Ani lo ozev otcha. I am here with you. I'm not letting go. I am with you. You're not alone. That muchuyavut, which was the mem of maaseh, that I'm here with you. You just saw the stress like sort of melting off of him. You know, he went from being like a crying baby to being a fighter. I mean, you know, we went through the process, you know, of it was almost like birthing. You know, it was like going from being helpless to regaining control. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a way of when someone doesn't remember the incident that happened, they're re-experiencing it. It's not, oh, I remember I was once there. When someone was in a car accident, chas v'sholom, they killed someone, and they wake up in the middle of the night like this, they're not remembering the incident. Look at the body motions. They're there. This is what I did. I grabbed the steering wheel, slammed on the brake. I'm there again. Because no one closed that loop for them. No one put that chronologically in the past. The incident is over. Okay? That is so healing. That means that is in the past. I am here with you now. You are safe. This is now. There's going to be a tomorrow. What you experienced is in the past. I am here with you now. Modul Maaseh, I'm not going to go into all the details of it, includes where do you want to go next? What do you want to do? Why don't you make a decision? And I don't know, within 15 minutes, he's like, where's my gun? I want to go back. I want to get dressed into uniform. And I was like, we did something awesome. There was also Hanania, I don't remember his last name, who was in the ambulance treating. If I ever get a chance to meet this, I think it was a Magavnik from Elad, I want to give him a hug. We don't give hugs at the time because that's an emotional experience, and right now he's having an emotional overload. The last thing we want to do when someone's having an acute stress reaction is give them more emotions to deal with. So I had to go in with that strong, Ani mefaked po. I'm the commanding officer. You need to listen to Hanania, giving instructions. Come back to me. I'm with you. I'm not leaving you. That bonding, there's a lot of science behind this, of dopamines and all the other fancy stuff, and the cerebral cortex and all the other things that are happening. It was amazing to watch it. It truly saved that soldier from a life of PTSD. I'd like to think that I'd like to meet him and I'd like to see what happened. I don't know, he may have gone back into Gaza and that's where he wanted to go. And, I don't make the decision of who gets the gun and goes back in. By then, I think the tide had begun to turn. We were still seeing helicopters landing, like, United Hatzalah helicopters, the Army helicopters. It was like Grand Central Station, if they have one for helicopters, in this field. What used to be a field, it was just a flat dirt. And we had like rows of ambulances there. So after that, I got back to my job, which was to actually get stories and not be a part of the story. I didn't even know that I was being part of the story. But then I went to one ambulance and there's Gitty Beer, like the whole family. This is like a family event. Gitty Beer was a newly minted paramedic. She had also gone straight from her Yom Tov preparations. She was still dressed Yom Tov. She was, there's helmet hair, which we know of. there's helmet sheitel, because she was still wearing her Yom Tov sheitel with the helmet on for, I think by then it must have been closing in on 24 hours of a helmet on your sheitel. I don't know from sheitel so much, but I think that sheitel really, I don't know if it's salvageable, but she was a rock star. I mean, she was a rock star. She had just, I don't exactly know when she had finished being a paramedic, but she had seen the worst of the worst. She was getting the worst of she was getting the hardest, because the paramedics and the United Hatzalah paramedics and doctors who came down, it was life and death in seconds, just again and again and again. And she was, she was just awesome. She was awesome. And then I have it on my phone somewhere. I had the honor and the privilege of actually getting the story from her, what she had done since leaving her family and then finding all her family like on scene doing other stuff. It was just like I said, in hindsight, I didn't realize. Well, at the time, I didn't realize what I had been in. When I went back to Tzomet Heletz with my brother-in-law and my kids, he took us back because he hadn't experienced it, and so I said he wouldn't even know about Tzomet Heletz because it had already been planted as the farmer who, I don't even think the farmer even knew that he had his field had become a MASH unit, helicopter landing pad or whatever. And I said, you've got to, so we put it into Waze and we got to somewhat Heletz, and I'm like, we got to stop off. And the guy was like, okay, we'll stop off. And we got there, and just to see the green field, and there was a large tower, and it was a radio tower. It was all painted red and white because of the low flying planes and stuff. Everything was there the way I remembered it, except for the green. And then I looked down and I saw among the green things growing, I saw like an IV bag that had been, you saw the medical trash that had just been missed in the cleanup. And I was like, it's still here. And that's when I realized that it was still here. And then I took my two sons and I put my arms around them, and like I walked towards where we had the treatment station, and I just took a deep breath of the clean air and I hugged them, and I felt such closure. And that's when I realized what a powerful experience I had been through, and frankly, what I was zoche to be a part of. We were in a fight for our lives. You know, and I was there. So, you know, shoulder to shoulder, you know, religious, secular, didn't make a difference. We're brothers and sisters, arm in arm, doing stuff for the Jewish people at our hardest time. And it was like, yeah, we did that. You know, I was like, I told my kids, I said, don't forget this. You know, you were here through me, you know. It was just awesome, you know. Certain times you just feel that there's the big heroes that are doing the big heroic stuff. And they are not taking, you know, the guys who went in there guns blazing, literally. Our volunteers, other volunteers who paid the ultimate price. I mean, salute, I mean, for sure. But one thing I think we learned from October 7th is that the tide was turned by the little people. There were no little people. Every person did the little bit that they could. And some did more than others. I'm not getting into the politics of thing. I don't give a hoot about that stuff. That's not about it. It's like right here, right now, what needs to be done? You need DK in this ambulance. I'm in. You need me to go to where the missiles are? I'm going. You tell me where I need to go. You know, that's my dream. That's what I'm here for. That's why I did it. There is one person who really enabled all of this to happen. And that's my wife, Shira. Because, I mean, I can do stupid things. I do things that other people wouldn't do. Burning buildings, terror attacks, things that I do, you know. I don't do it stupidly. We have rules and I follow rules, and who's ever listening to me, I follow the rules almost all the time. But getting up in the middle of the night, I can't, or in the middle of the day, or whatever, in the middle of work, and then whatever the middle of the Shabbos table, whatever it is, if she didn't support me, if she didn't honestly, truly support me, and only a husband and a wife would know that, I wouldn't be able to do it. Kids? Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah. How much do I need to pay? How much do I owe you for the services? My therapeutics.
Thank you.
It is. This is. that was it. This was, I mean, it was truly a zechut. I mean, it was, we don't ask for this. This was not something no one wanted it. But, you know that we shine, you know. How tough are you? Oh, you don't want to know how tough we are. You know, I just saw someone had a video, had a picture collection of Jews with the number on their arms. And I'm like, my God, we're a people that went through the most demeaning, destructive, evil tattoos in Auschwitz. We're like, hey, yeah, that's all right. We're going, yeah, I'm back here. We're just raising kids and grandkids and moving on. I mean, that's a tough, that's a whole different level of tough, you know. And that's that. That's my story.